It is the morning sports desk on a Friday, the 28th of June. I'm CJ Baumgartner. That's Zeke filling in for Corey today. Zeke, welcome back to the morning sports desk.
You bet. Can't wait for Corey to be back on Monday. Is that when he's back from vacation?
I don't know. The days that he's been gone so many days, I don't even know. Maybe is he coming back? Do you think?
Maybe. I've seen him twice this week. We've golfed together twice, so maybe he's coming back. I don't know.
Maybe he's just going to go on his golf tour. He's just going to keep doing that.
Yes.
All right, we're going to get to a little bit of golf stuff later in the episode, talking about our Mount Rushmore of golf courses in Minnesota that we've golfed on. That's going to come up in just a little bit. First, though, let's talk about the Minnesota Twins, Zeke. They beat the Diamondbacks 13-6 yesterday, get up to 11 runs early, and just pretty much run away and hide with that thing. They've won the series at Arizona. They've won both series on this West Coast road trip. Going to have a big one against Seattle this weekend. But let's zoom back in to that game on yesterday, on Thursday, the one where David Festa, the Twins' top 5 prospect overall, their highest ranked pitching prospect, and the top 100 global prospect, ranked 99th on the top 100 list in all of baseball prospects, made his major league debut, pitched 5 innings, gave up 5 runs. A lot of those kind of came later in that second time through the order. I know you didn't have a chance to watch the game and sit down, but based on the vibes, what'd you get?
We talked about on Wednesday, you need to give the rookie some run support, and the Twins did exactly that. 11 runs before you sat down, pretty much. It was a 13-6 final score. Byron Buxton. The only highlight I've seen from that game is the Buxton home run. 456 feet, dead center field. This guy is on right now, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, we talked about it on the last show, too, of Buxton's just such a high and low player, and you kind of have to ride that wave, and when it's low, it's not great. But when you're in that high, there's nobody who's more fun to watch in baseball than Byron Buxton. And that pitch, he hit 450 feet to dead center in Arizona. Mm-hmm. It was a middle out pitch that, of course, is something Byron Buxton is just known to hammer over the course of his career. And he just spanked one. Had a couple other hits as well. Royce Lewis getting out of the slump, had a couple RBIs with an extra base hit. Manuel Margot did the same thing. Really just feels like a good way for the Twins to get into that series against Seattle. And back to Festa. Yeah, I mean, second time through the order, ran into a bit of trouble. But when you have that run support early, we talked about Rocco maybe giving him that short hook, and 5 innings isn't necessarily a long start. But I think if the game was 1-0 and the Twins are up or losing even, maybe he doesn't get out of the 4th inning. Maybe he doesn't get out of the 5th inning. You know what I mean? Maybe there's just something that's a little bit shorter, but when he has so much run support, you kind of give him that opportunity to go out there and prove himself, and he had to get pulled a little bit. But, for first major league start, you just get that one under your belt because unless you're, here's the name drop, Zeke, unless you're Anthony Swarzak, you're not a complete game shutout in your major league debut on the Metrodome against the Milwaukee Brewers on a Saturday in July. But besides that point, your first start's probably not going to be that great, typically speaking. Jose Barrios, if you remember, in 2016, had an awful opening a career debut with the Twins. I think it was Detroit. I think he didn't even get out of the 1st inning. He was that bad. Trevor May had the same thing. He ended up becoming a nice big league player. So first impressions are important, but they're not everything. And he gets a chance to kind of go out and prove himself later. But when you get all that run support, that it kind of has become irrelevant in that part of the game. But it's just fun to see this Twins offense score runs. They are I know that they can be a little up and down, Zeke, but they're a top 5 offense in runs scored.
Absolutely. And we'll have to see how this series in Seattle goes. The other highlight, I saw 2 highlights yesterday. One was the Buxton home run. The other one was Carlos Correa coming off the field, holding his wrist like this, and it was limp. And it looks like he avoids some serious injury, but we'll have to see how that impacts the middle infield for the Twins if they put him on the IL to get that rested up, and whether or not we see another certain St. Paul prospect come up and make his major league debut sometime soon to help solidify that middle infield.
That'd be so much fun if Brooks Lee could get that call up. I think Correa told reporters after the game, because they're like, do you expect to be in the lineup tomorrow? He's like, I'll be fine. I'm good. Right. So I think he's hoping so, but again, you never know. Maybe the Twins and him have a conversation like you talked about, like, hey, we're this close to the All-Star break. Do you want to rest up and just kind of get ready and do whatever? But we'll see. We'll see how that ends up shaking out. But overall, yeah, Correa avoids the break after getting hit in the pitch with that wrist. Just a big old bruise. I had a friend who I worked with at my last job in TV, and he texted me. He's like, what happened to Correa yesterday? And all I just texted him was like, he got an ouchie. That's
Yeah.
pretty It's
Yeah,
pretty
he made it look a lot worse than it was. I just saw him walking off. The wrist was limp. I'm like, oh no, there it goes. We just can't
can't catch a break.
catch a break. Yeah.
And they catch one, Carlos Correa. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I say that, and they're gonna be like, he's on the 60-day IL. His finger fell off.
Exactly. Yeah. We're just waiting for that news to drop.
Yeah, exactly. So Twins start that series against old friends Jorge Polanco and Mitch Garver this weekend. Late starts again. They go on the West Coast. They do these road trips. I get it. You do them all in a stretch run, but all these late start times are getting to me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's way too late.
It's awful.
Way too late. The Minnesota Timberwolves had a big draft this week, and I didn't know what to really expect of the Timberwolves. They don't have a ton of draft capital from the Rudy Gobert trade, so all of their even-numbered picks for like the next 3 even-numbered drafts, or odd-numbered draft, are off the board because of Gobert. But at the same time, what are they going to do with luxury tax things? They still have a first-round pick this year. I expected it to be pretty quiet. Just take a stick and pick at 27 and move on with your life. But no, the Wolves got aggressive, and they traded into the top 10. And Zeke, why don't you tell us a little bit about that guy?
Yeah, it's kind of curious with Rob Dillingham. He's the SEC sixth man of the year, and it's very curious with Kentucky because they had 2 guys go in the top 8, and they were both bench players, freshmen for Kentucky. One went number 4, I think, and the other one, Rob Dillingham, taken by San Antonio, traded to the Wolves. And a lot of hype surrounding this guy. I mean, he is a bucket. He can play offensively. The knocks on him are that he's undersized, and that defense is an issue. I think it was ranked in the very, very, very bottom in the NCAA in defensive efficiency last year. So those are 2 things he has to work on. The good news is the Wolves are going to need to utilize him right away. He can go to Iowa. He can get some more reps in there. He can spend some time with the big league club up and down as needed. But in like 3 years, Anthony Edwards and Rob Dillingham going to be dominating this league. It could be one of the best backcourts in the NBA.
I love it. I love to hear it. And the other thing, too, is, there's the thing about the NBA draft, especially when you're not drafting a lottery pick. You're drafting developmental players because there is no, like in baseball, it's a full minor league system. In college, in the NFL, there's no college football that works as your minor league system, essentially. There is college basketball, but like you talked about, everybody leaves after their freshman year and they get to the NBA, and which means that they're developing as a professional. And so you got to give him time. So you're not expecting guys to come in and play right away. And it gives him a couple of years because he has a lot of veterans. There is Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and there is Mike Conley to kind of take over the ball handling duties. But what he could be, if he's right this year, is he can be a guy that comes off the bench, leading the second unit, and that can provide a little bit of scoring, which is what the Timberwolves needed, is scoring off the bench. And then the long-term view of that is maybe you do get that Mike Conley replacement in a couple years, which would be really huge as well. The Timberwolves do not have any salary cap space. They're not going to be signing any free agents this year worth anything. It's going to be some league minimums to something and somebody, unless there's a big trade in the works. But even if that's the case, I still don't see like a major free agent signing in the books for the Timberwolves because they have Gobert, Towns, and Edwards, who are all under these max contracts. They're in that what's called in the NBA the second apron, which basically means there's multiple levels to the luxury tax because they found out that teams would just pay the luxury tax. So you have a second apron to kind of prevent teams from just eating the money and going on and creating super teams. And the Wolves will have to pay a lot of money. But in the way that they've made a couple moves, they traded Wendell Moore to the Pistons for the 37th overall pick for pick 53. So they moved back in a salary dump to circumvent the cap a little bit by, I think it cleared up like 500,000, but it took away $2 million from the luxury tax, according to Dane Moore. And also drafting not only Dillingham, but also Terrence Shannon Jr. You draft those guys and they're your free agents. Like you're not going to be able to, you have money already allotted to sign draft picks. That's not a part of your salary cap at the current time. So trade those future capitals. It's a 2031 first round pick to move up into the top 10. You're using that as a way to get free agents instead of going and signing them. You already have a bunch of veterans. So adding some younger guys into the mix, some developmental players who have a lot of upside, because you're not going to be able to go sign one of them in free agency. I like it. It's Tim Conley has only been on the job a few years. Obviously, the Gobert trade is one bad year, one good year, and bringing in Conley, bringing in Nickeil Alexander-Walker, all those second-round picks. Tim's cooking. Let Tim cook.
Yeah, the thing that's weird for me with having 2 first-round picks, like usually having 2 first-round picks is huge news for Wolves fans. This is the future. These are the guys we're going to build around. And that's not the case at all this year. I mean, we have the 8th overall pick, and he's not going to be starting. He's not coming off the bench in that first rotation. Yeah, it's kind of weird to be in this position where usually we're taking guys like Wayne Ellington and Corey Brewer, and these guys are going to be the future of the franchise. Well, maybe Rob Dillingham has a part in that, but it's not going to be for the next 2-3 years, which is kind of refreshing as a Wolves fan.
Right. There's no hey, we drafted this guy, but trust us, he's going to lead the franchise. And no, you already got that guy.
Yeah, we have that guy. It's weird having that guy again.
And it's how do you build around this guy, and how do you do things, and how do you whatever? And I think the biggest thing for Dillingham that excites me, and then we'll talk about Shannon Jr. in a second here, is the fact that you talked about he's undersized. And yeah, in the NBA, that's going to be the be-all, end-all is size, especially the way the Wolves like to play. One, with his defensive ability, such a good defensive team around him, the hope is that you bring up his level of play with that. The other thing is, if he was a few inches taller, he's probably a lottery pick. He's probably a very high draft pick if he's a little bit taller. And that's the thing, is the talent is there. The ability is there. It's just maybe a little bit of height issue, which in the NBA is big. Don't get me wrong, no pun intended. But also something where it's this guy maybe is being overlooked, and you can kind of buy low on a guy like that. And also buying low on a guy in Shannon Jr. who had some off-court allegations and all that, and that's kind of its own thing. But just as a basketball player, who are the Wolves getting in this guy?
They're getting a Gopher killer. That's the only reason I knew who Shannon, who he was. He's put up big numbers against the Gophers. He's 6'6". He's very, very fast. But the main thing with him is inconsistency. He averaged 23 points a game in college, and sometimes he was red hot, and sometimes he just wasn't. It seemed like those red hot nights always came against the Gophers. So they're getting a good wing player, and he's just a sneaky fast player.
Yeah, exactly. And the biggest thing with that is the Wolves need a bench scoring. And we talked about that. They get Dillingham, they get Shannon Jr., they get these guys whose main calling card is scoring. And that's what they need. And it just feels refreshing to trust the Timberwolves in the draft. I mean, remember, they draft a guy who, wasn't even in the draft, or you draft Johnny Flynn and Ricky Rubio over Steph Curry. They've had the David Kahn era was so bad.
Oh, the David Kahn era.
Kahn, man. And then also just the subsequent, it was tough to get off the ground with the franchise being in such dire straits. And Flip was going to build his vision, tragically passed away. And then Tibbs came in and kind of took a wrecking ball to that. And then you had Rosas come in, who drafted very well, couldn't kind of contain himself at work and got it picked out. And then Tim Conley, even Rosas would have been a really good president of basketball operations if he couldn't get out of his own way. But then A-Rod and Laurie convince Tim Conley to come here, a guy who built a championship roster in Denver, a deep, strong roster, and is doing the same thing here in Minnesota. Not that he's the best, not that it's going to be perfect every single year. Every move he makes, it works out really well. But like you talked about with Edwards, it's just nice to know that you have a star player who you feel really good about, a head coach that you trust, and a president of basketball operations who just at the very least is competent and knows what he's doing.
Yeah, and speaking of Wolves head coaches, I'm going to look at the list here real quick, because I know if I just go off memory, I'm going to forget a couple of guys, and that's a huge part of it too, is having a guy in Chris Finch who just signed a 4-year extension or something like that. And you can talk about how bad management was in the David Kahn years and Kevin McHale running the show and things like that. But the head coach is such an important position. So after Flip Saunders' first tenure, we had Kevin McHale, Dwayne Casey, who lost 69 games. Randy Whitman lost 105. McHale again. Kurt Rambis was 32-132. The Rick Adelman era. I forget about the Rick Adelman era of Wolves basketball. He was 97-133.
He was already a coach. His rosters were so bad.
Yeah. Flip came back, lost 66 games. Sam Mitchell had a shot at it, lost 53 games. Tibbs, for as good as that 1 or 2 years stretch was, he lost 107 games. He has a losing record. Ryan Saunders came in, lost 94 games. Then you have Chris Finch, 160 and 127, came in that last half of the Saunders year, had a terrible year, and has just been amazing since then. And that's a huge part of it too, is having a guy that not just the fans trust, but that the players believe in too. And we saw that in the playoffs after Finchie blew out his knee on that. People say Mike Conley did it. It wasn't Mike Conley. It was Devin Booker pushing Mike Conley into Finchie, and I'll go to my grave believing that. But just seeing him come back for that Denver series, and the faith that he instilled in those guys, and the fans fell in love with him, I think, for good at that point too. So having the right guy in charge of this roster is a huge part of it too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just so big to have Finch. And you talk about the players, they say, Edwards says it all the time, he holds us accountable. He's not afraid to get after Anthony Edwards. He's not afraid to get after Towns. He's not afraid to get after Gobert. Anybody on the roster is, and you don't see that in the NBA with the star culture and other sports leagues as well, but mainly in the NBA, some coaches are afraid to kind of not go after, but to get on their best players and to try and push them. And not just the fact that Finch does it, but the fact that the Wolves players allow him to do that speaks really big volumes about this team. It's weird that we're talking about all this great stuff about the Timberwolves, even though ownership stability is kind of in limbo
in flux. Yeah. Right.
But it's just so important for this team to have. Finch right now is easily the second best head coach in franchise history. And honestly, if he doesn't, if he keeps this job for another 3-4 years, even if they don't win a title, but they just keep making the playoffs, make a couple runs here and there, he's going to be the best head coach in franchise history pretty easily, because Flip was great and he had the run in 2004. But outside of that, there were some good teams, but nothing that knocked on the door of a championship. Finch already has a Western Conference Finals appearance. He's already kind of matched that longest run. So there's a chance that very soon we could say Chris Finch is the best head coach in Wolves history. A low bar to clear, I know.
Absolutely.
All right, Minnesota Wild have their draft tonight. They're picking 15th? Something
15, I think. Yeah.
Wouldn't be the Wild if they didn't pick like right smack dab in the middle of the first round.
Yeah, and that's been the knock on the Wild, in my opinion, for years. Is they're always right in the middle. You make the playoffs, get bounced the first round. That's fine, and then you're just not able to rebuild with those high draft picks like you want, when you're always picking kind of at the end of the lottery in that first round of playoff guys. You're not able to find that, well, they found Kirill Kaprizov in the third round, I think just by miracle, but you're not able to get that Connor McDavid or that Benji Malkin or that Leon Draisaitl, the guys that go 1, 2, 3. You just don't get those guys. And the Wild have done a good job of drafting and developing, but I mean, you put Connor McDavid on this team and what happens? You put Alexander Ovechkin, a young Alexander Ovechkin on this team, and what happens? It's this year especially. It's a consensus number one overall guy, and then kind of let the dominoes fall after that. And the Wild have just never had that number one guy. I don't think they've ever had the number one overall pick. They're just kind of always just treading in that middle zone there.
Right, exactly. They need an opportunity, to get that star guy. And who knows, maybe they go in tonight. What's kind of the, for somebody who's not necessarily an NHL diehard like myself, what direction, kind of what position are the Wild targeting if there's not like a specific player that kind of has been in mind?
If they go defense tonight, I'll probably throw up because I don't want another first-round defenseman. Macklin Celebrini, Boston College, is going to be the number one overall pick. He's going to go to the San Jose Sharks. Two guys that I've been keeping my eye on, wingers, Michael Brandskeg-Nygaard from Sweden, and then Taj Iginla, the son of Jerome Iginla. There's a lot of good NHL bloodline in this draft. It's kind of crazy. It's to the point now where the guys that I grew up watching, well, even like Bronny James going in the draft yesterday, it's these guys as kids who I grew up watching are now in the draft. Brizgalov's kid is in the draft. You've got Matthew Tkachuk's second cousin is in this draft, and of course Jerome Iginla's son Taj is in here too. So he's a center or right winger, kind of undersized. You already have that with with Marco Rossi, that undersized center. So I think they go size. I think they take if he's still on the board at 13 is where the Wild pick tonight. I think they go Michael Branska, Nygaard from Sweden.
All right, there we go. The Minnesota Wild, they have the opening round of the NHL draft tonight. All right, Zeke, I think that's pretty much it. I think we need to get one last thing figured out here, and that's our Mount Rushmore. Our Mount Rushmore, if you will, Minnesota sports Mount Rushmore. There's the phrase I'm looking for. Trying to do this thing where at the end of every week now, we're going to just go over kind of Minnesota sports related Mount Rushmore items. So in no particular order, or you can put it in a particular order if you want to, but in no particular order, rank the top 4 golf courses in Minnesota that you've ever played on.
Ooh, in Minnesota. I got to redo my prep then. Honorable mention to Bully Pulpit in Medora because they were on my list. But if they're in Minnesota, I gotta take off Bully Pulpit, which is just phenomenal out in Western North Dakota. If it's in no particular order, I got to put my home course on here, the Vintage in Staples. I mean, golfed for a couple years in middle school, did the Vintage a whole bunch of times. I know that course like the back of my hand, and any opportunity I have to golf the Vintage, I'm taking advantage of it. It's beautiful now. Lynn Peterson's done a great job out there getting the course in good condition. Jeff Youngbauer, the superintendent out there, I saw on Facebook the other day, says it's the best shape that the course has been in since he took over, and that's awesome to see for the Vintage. So that one's in my top 4. Vintage out in rural Staples. All
right, what else is on the list?
Kind of a combo here in Detroit Lakes. A couple places I've had memberships at the last handful of years. That's the Detroit Country Club / Lakeview Golf Course out on Highway 59. Country Club's on one side of the road. Lakeview is the smaller course on the other side of the road. I love Lakeview because there's only one par 5 on the Lakeview course. It's all par 4s and par 3s. So you can golf like a 68 and feel great about yourself because there's no par 5s out there. Lakeview Golf Course, the home of the Pine to Palm Championship every August, is gorgeous as well. That one's a little bit longer, a little bit tougher, but I like those two also.
All right. Okay, here we go. I'm going into my list here. Mine will be a lot quicker because you've golfed a lot more courses than I have. So my list is kind of just more of the courses I've golfed at in my life. So I'm going to, in no particular order, I'm going to go the Vintage in Staples. Fun little golf course to get out there and just have a good day going out there and hitting some balls, because that was I think it was the first course I ever golfed, and I was 20 years old. I get in hole 1 and I get ready to tee off, and there's that tree kind of out there just to the left of where you're hitting, and I smacked it, and I'd never driven in my life up until that point, and I almost hit like a couple just standing there.
On the right side of that dude, he built a house there in the last 10 years. You're either in his yard or you're over in Glenn Hasselberg's driveway. Yeah, it's a tough fairway to hit. It's pretty narrow. It's only like 100 yards long or something like that.
It could have been the easiest fairway in the world to hit. Tried to hit a person. I had to yell for, and then you have to like embarrassing go because they were weirdly close to go like sorry, like I don't know what I'm doing. It's that I think you should leave clip. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing and I'm scared.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at right now, with that. But I've golfed it a few other times. It's been really, really fun to get to go there. I've lost so many golf balls to the water because I am not a great golfer, and also to the trees and to the road and a lot of places, but that's really in any course. But especially that one where you got to clear the water. Let's just say I've had some balls go swimming. Whitetail Run, another good golf course. I'll get to have that. I really like the silo hole. It's fun to get to run out there and enjoy a day golfing there. Also, went to golf at Balmoral in Ottawa. That's a fun one, a nice little quick one. Was out there in the fall with my cousin, my brother, my grandpa. We had a good time just going out there. Really fun course to get to play on as well. And yesterday we were golfing in Greystone in Sauk Center, and that golf course is just nice. I'm not gonna come away and be like, that's the best golf course I've ever had in my life, and oh my gosh, everybody, but like, it's just everything about it is solid. You know what I mean? It's just you were to rank a course, like you give it an 8 out of 10 without even like thinking. You're like, just boom, everything 8.5 out of 10. Everything you need is there. It's great. They take good care of it. And I golfed a not worst game of my life yesterday there, so I have a pretty good opinion of it.
You're solid.
Yeah, there you go. I did not embarrass myself. So for those who don't know, Zeke and I and Corey and one of our sales guys in the Alexandria office, we golfed yesterday in an outing, in a scramble. Zeke, how would you describe yesterday's golf outing?
We started really, really well. We eagled the first one thanks to your awesome chip and the help of some string. And then it's the wheels slowly fell off by the end of I think we bogeyed our 17th hole in a 4-man scramble, but it was still a lot of fun. We shot a 59. Yeah,
so I'll take it. I think really in any golf scramble, once you get to like hole 18, you're just like, okay, like you're dragging a little bit, you're doing whatever. Usually I've been in golf scrambles where like it's a bunch of us who don't have any experience. So like by hole 4, we're like, I don't know, man, we're just gonna kind of go for funsies the rest of the day. We did not get the coveted 15th place, which would have gotten you like a free round of golf or whatever it was. So we golfed too well. We couldn't.
I hate it when that happens.
Oh, darn it. Why couldn't we suck just a little bit more? Come on. We're like the Wild. We're not good enough to be in the top, and we're not bad enough to be in the bottom. We're just kind of sitting. Darn it.
Yep.
All right, Zeke, any other sports things you want to get off your chest while we break for the weekend?
I don't think so. Twins finishing off that 3-game road trip in Seattle this weekend. Let's see. NHL draft tonight. Lynx lost to the Dallas Wings last night, so it is what it is. Yeah, that winning streak is over. I think
they've only lost 4 games on the season.
13 and 4 now. I can't think of anything else that's huge. Oh, did you see that Adam Thielen was catching passes from JJ McCarthy?
Yeah, I heard that. Where did that happen?
I have no idea. Adam, he was definitely in Detroit Lakes for his Thielen Foundation
DL
camp on Saturday. Yeah, so I don't know where if he went down to the cities and they were working out together down there or where it happened. I thought the video was edited so choppily. I guess I wasn't sure if it was real or not because it was McCarthy throwing, then a bunch of effects, and then Thielen catching it. He's wearing a straight black jersey with no logos, no numbers, no nothing on it. And I guess it was legit. Thielen was working out with JJ McCarthy, and so that's got people thinking, hey, Vikings need a third receiver. Why not trade and bring Thielen back? Which I don't think that happens at all, but there's still some Thielen Vikings connection where he's working out with their QB of the future. So who knows where this goes?
Thielen's working out with that young quarterback who wears number 9, and it's not Bryce Young.
There's your headline.
There's your headline. No, I mean, I thought it was in DL based on the way I know he was up for that camp. So I heard you were in a picture with him.
I was, yeah. If you look in the Thielen Foundation photos, I'm sitting in the bleachers. My son participated, and so I'm way up in the bleachers in my Mizzou sweater, and he's on the field taking pictures with kids. So no, it was a great event. 2 sessions that day, 200 kids per session. I mean, they get their picture with Adam. They get to catch some passes. He just teaches them speed and strength stuff. And it was a 2-hour camp on a Saturday morning. It wasn't too hot, and all the kids had a blast. And you get to hang out with Adam Thielen for a morning. And the Laker football team, the juniors and seniors all volunteer. They're out there with the kids and stuff. And Reed Hefter really hammering home, continue to pour into the future of football, because at one point those juniors and seniors were these 8 to 13-year-olds. Mm-hmm. And to just give back in the way that Laker football does, it's really cool to see. And the way that Adam continues to give back to that community is awesome too.
Right, exactly. Just to get to be able to offer that up and get to meet Adam Thielen to do all that stuff. It's really, really cool, and cool that he comes back and does it. You're pretty tight with Thielen, aren't you? Like, do you got his name in your phone? Like, you texting him all the time?
Not in my phone, but we are Facebook friends. So
great.
I got that going for me.
You can shoot him up on Messenger.
I can hit him up on Messenger. Yeah.
Yeah. He'll be like,
who's this? Yeah.
Somebody trying to hack my Facebook account? Like, what's going on?
Pretty much.
All right. This has been the Morning Sports Desk for Friday, June 28th. We'll see you on Monday.